Hey guys, it's me, cyoubx. In the past, I made a video talking about why I think the tensioning system in the 356XS is essentially garbage, and I got a fair amount of pushback, essentially saying that I didn't really understand the tensioning system and I wasn't using it properly, and the whole point of the system was to have really even tensions on all sides that are reproducible across multiple cubes. But in this video, I'm going to show you objective reasons for why that's not a good argument, and also, instead of just complaining about a problem that not everyone has, I'm also going to not only offer a solution, but actually demonstrate the solution. So a few days ago, I got the Vita Cube, which is this limited green edition GAN 356XS, and I wasn't going to make a video using this cube or anything like that. This was really just for collection purposes, and I think I posted a picture on the community page, but that was it. But one thing I realized very, very quickly was that this green Vita Cube performed much, much better than my black 356XS. The Vita Cube just felt really crisp and fluid when turning, and the corner cutting was really, really good. In contrast, my black XS was kind of sloppy. It was very flexy feeling, and I was never really able to get good corner cutting on it. Now, part of that might be because of the way it was lubed. So when I first tested the corner cutting on the Vita Cube, it was out of the box. So it was just factory lube and factory tensions, and I thought that that might have an effect. So one of the first things I did was actually clean out the lube from both cubes, then re-lubed them side by side exactly the same way using Angstrom Dignitas and Gravitas, and then adding some DNM 37. While the lube did change how the Vita Cube felt, making it feel more plush and a little bit slower, it didn't change the performance of the corner cutting at all. The Vita Cube was still corner cutting 45 degrees, even a little bit more, while the black XS could barely cut line to line. And not only did I lube the two cubes the same way, I actually set the tensions exactly the same. And again, there was no luck. I just could not get corner cutting to work on the black one. And after setting them up exactly the same way with no luck, I ended up trying every single tensioning combination for the black XS, which turns out to not be that many since there's only 24 settings anyway. And yeah, none of them worked. Essentially, even on the loosest tension, the black one was just too tight, and the centerpiece travel distance was just not large enough. So I thought to myself, how can I make this cube better? One option is to just make a new nut that has maybe a fifth setting that raises the centerpiece a little bit higher than before. But that's kind of complicated because I don't really have anything to go off of except for the nuts that I have, and I didn't really feel like reverse engineering the ratchet system and all of that. Or I could just make a new centerpiece that takes a screw and spring. So I booted up SolidWorks, and 10 minutes later, it's not an exaggeration, it was 10 minutes from start to finish, I reverse engineered the 356 centerpiece to take a screw, spring, and washer. It took another hour and 15 minutes to 3D print, and then another 30 minutes or so to cure under the UV light. But in under 2 hours, most of which was waiting, I got this. And it wasn't perfect. I did eyeball a couple of the dimensions, so you can see that the cap doesn't perfectly fit onto the centerpiece, but it's pretty darn close, and it was already better than the GES system. So the yellow face on this cube right now has that version 1 on the centerpiece I designed. You can see that I didn't round off the corners quite enough, so some of the gray plastic is poking out. But if you look at the corner cutting, it's already way better than what I got with the GES system. It cuts 45 degrees no problem, and the reverse corner cutting is still great. And this was after 10 minutes of work. So being a perfectionist, I wanted to demonstrate that I could do better, so I made a version 2. So about 5 more minutes of work later, basically just adjusting the dimensions, and another 2 hours of waiting around, I made this, which is the version 2 of the centerpiece. The cap now fits perfectly with this piece, and it even has that nice satisfying snap. It's basically identical to the 356 centerpiece, except that it now takes a screw and spring. And the performance is fantastic. The corner cutting is still really good. It's 45 degrees. Actually, it's more than 45 degrees now. And the reverse corner cutting is obviously still good. And because I use relatively stiff springs, the cube feels very, very stable. It doesn't feel floppy or flexy, none of that. Now, I will admit that because the plastic I used to 3D print this was not great, it's a little bit tacky, the cube is a little bit slower now. But even with worse plastic, I was able to significantly improve the performance of this cube with about 15 minutes of work. And if you're wondering about the weight of this cube now, using Moyu hardware, just standard core screw springs, and the 3D printed parts, it now weighs 68 grams, which is a whopping 1 gram more than before. So there's a couple takeaways here. The first is that I hope it highlights why I think the GAN tensioning system is flawed. I realize the point of the system is to have reproducible tensions, but if you're someone who is about to leave a comment saying that you could cut 45 degrees on your XS, then that just further proves my point. Because if you're able to cut 45 degrees on your XS, and I'm not, after trying every single tension and re-lubing this thing 8 or 9 times, there's a problem. And even with my own 2 XSs, the fact that I was able to get good corner cutting on one of them and not on the other, despite exactly the same lubrication and the same tensioning, says a lot. And of course, because the plastic is green, there might be differences in the material properties that might affect how the cube corner cuts, but at this point, I think you guys understand the point I'm trying to make. Due to manufacturing tolerances or just other factors that you can't really control, the tensions aren't as uniform as you might think. And if you can't get uniform tensions reliably, then that really defeats the purpose of having the dual adjustment system. The second takeaway is that GAN cubes are not that hard to design. If someone like me can hack this together in about 15 minutes of work, then companies with a lot of experience and with the previous design files should be able to do this in their sleep. Recently, I've seen a lot of threads commenting on how GAN cubes are grossly overpriced, and I even made a video about that. And by and large, the most common pushback has been that R&D is really expensive, and that's what's driving the cost up. Now, granted, I don't think the dual adjustment system is easy to design. I don't think I'd be able to do that in 15 minutes. In fact, I don't think I'd be able to do that in a day. It's a non-trivial design, and they did actually do a lot of good engineering in order to make that system, but that system didn't have to be made in the first place. Why fix something that isn't broken? Or in this case, why break something that was fine before? There was really no reason for them to design the dual adjustment system the way they did, which not only limited the number of tensions that you could have, going from infinite down to 24, but also limiting the amount of corner cutting that I could get on this cube. Spending a lot of time designing something poorly doesn't mean you get to charge a premium for it. Because if that were the case, I could design some obscure, unusable mechanism and sell it to you for your firstborn child. Anyway, I wanted to make this video not to complain about GAN, but actually to give more insight about why I feel so strongly about bad design choices. When a nobody like me can fix a cube this easily, it's no excuse for established companies to push inferior products as some sort of sunk cost fallacy. Let me know in the comments if you guys are interested in having a set of these centerpieces. They were designed for the 356XS, but they should actually work for the entire 356 lineup, except for the smart cubes. If there's enough interest, maybe we can get them mass produced with better plastic or something. We'll see. And if there's any other cube design topics or engineering topics you want me to discuss, just leave them in the comments below. Hope this video was educational in some way, and if not, at least entertaining. If you like the video, make sure to subscribe to see more stuff like this. Thanks for watching, and until next time, toodles.